Good evening, friends, and welcome to another edition of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace. We are retired New York City police detectives and 9/11 World Trade Center first responders. Heck, if you like all things true crime related from the police detective's perspective, you're in the right spot. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, so you'll get all things DutyRon and Ed Wallace when we go live or upload another video. Tonight, I want to talk to you about Rachel Morin. 10 months ago, she was raped and murdered in August. And the perpetrator of the crime, as we saw him in video surveillance from Los Angeles, California, was on the lam for 10 months. And many people thought that law enforcement, when the case was going cold and they weren't doing anything. But guess what? The long arm of the law reached out and grabbed this perpetrator, who was an illegal alien in this country illegally. His name is Victor Martinez Hernandez, 23 years old, and he's got numerous murders under his belt. He murdered someone in his home country in El Salvador in January of 2023. He fled that country after a month of being on the run and came here to the United States, where his reign of terror continued after the murder that he committed in El Salvador. He came here illegally across the border and then perpetrated a crime in California. And guess what, folks? He wasn't done. He went clear across the United States and went to Maryland, to a quiet area in Maryland, Bel Air, Maryland, where the crime rate is so low. And he murdered and raped Rachel Morin, a mother of many children, mother of 5. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? He didn't stop his reign of terror. He was finally caught in the middle of our country, Kansas City, Kansas. This guy is a murdering machine, and he's up to no good. He's got gang involvement, and we're going to take a listen to this little piece right here.
Some of the points during this, I didn't think that we were ever going to have an end, that it was going to be a cold case. So I would like to applaud them.
Well, some emotional words from the mother of Rachel Morin after police have arrested a suspect in connection to the murder of her daughter. Thank you for joining.
Okay, before I get crucified for a live show, it is Tulsa, Oklahoma. I appreciate the correction. It's a live show. And I had a long day today, but I saw this breaking news and wanted to come live. But thank you for pointing that out. Let me put it up on the screen so we can stop it right now. Tulsa, Oklahoma. There you go. Thank you so much for that, Measy Mom.
I didn't think that we were ever going to have an end, that it was going to be a cold case. So I would like to applaud them.
Well, some emotional words from the mother of Rachel Morin after police have arrested a suspect in connection to the murder of her daughter. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kelsey Kushner. Morin, the mother of 5, was murdered along a popular hiking trail in Harford County last year. The sheriff made that announcement today in a news conference. Several new details were released about the case. Our Harford County community reporter Jessica Albert is live in Bel Air tonight with the very latest on the arrest. Jessica.
Hey, Kelsey, after a 10-month-long investigation, the Harford County Sheriff's Office has announced that 23-year-old Victor Martinez Hernandez was taken into custody last night in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The sheriff says that a new lead came in a few weeks ago that cracked this case open and led to the arrest of this man in a case that has haunted the Harford County community for 10 months now. After a long investigation,
Rachel's murderer is no longer a free man.
The Harford County Sheriff says Rachel Morin's killer has finally been caught. Authorities in Tulsa, Oklahoma took 23-year-old Victor Martinez Hernandez into custody late Friday night. He's been charged for killing and raping Morin on the Monpah Trail in Bel Air in August of last year. The sheriff says a lead involving genetic genealogy led them to their suspect.
On May 20th, on what should have been Rachel's 38th birthday, and in a poetic coincidence, or perhaps in Rachel's own divine assistance, our investigators uncovered a lead that led us to this day.
According to investigators, Martinez Hernandez is a citizen of El Salvador. They say he killed a woman there in January of 2023, then illegally fled to the United States a month later. Then in March of 2023, investigators say he assaulted a 9-year-old girl and her mother at a home in Los Angeles.
Victor Hernandez did not come here to make a better life for himself or for his family. He came here to escape the crime he committed in El Salvador. He came here and murdered Rachel, and God willing, no one else.
The sheriff says Martinez Hernandez has ties to gangs. Investigators are checking to see if he's connected to any other crimes. Rachel's emotional mother spoke at a news conference held Saturday afternoon about the arrest. She credits law enforcement for finally catching the suspect.
At one point, when things seemed like really bleak and hopeless, the lead detective said to me, he said, patience will win in the end.
And I'm going to say that patience the sheriff was referring to is the long arm of the law and the multiple agencies that are involved in this type of investigation. You have investigation being conducted with federal, state, and local partners in multiple jurisdictions. Don't forget this crime spree of this perpetrator, Victor Martinez Hernandez, 23 years old. He started early with his criminal career. It spans from El Salvador, his home country, to California, to Maryland, straight across from the West Coast to the East Coast. And then he was caught right in the middle of our great United States in Tulsa, Oklahoma, in a sports bar, just sitting at the bar amongst the patrons there. And the sheriff alluded to, God willing, he didn't kill anybody else because they don't know what he did for 10 months. You know, they were hot on his trail early, so it's June. So May, in the middle of May, I think they said May 20th, they were on this guy's tail. And the Ortham Labs, it was rumored early on when Ed and I were covering this case, Ortham Labs was involved in some of the investigative genetic genealogy. But let's take a listen, and then we'll break apart the press conference and we'll talk about it.
And we're learning new details about Martinez Hernandez's arrest from Tulsa police. We're told he was arrested at a bar last night, and that when he was initially arrested, police say that he tried to lie to them about who he was and the crimes that he's accused of. Harford County deputies are on their way to Tulsa right now to try to get Martinez Hernandez back here to Maryland. Reporting live in Harford County, Jessica Alpert.
So there you have it. He lied to authorities. That's not shocking. Most criminals lie to the police. And he was trying to evade the police. And he was apprehended in a public place, in a sports bar. In a sports bar, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to take a listen to another short news clip. And you know, I wanted to find out, I'm sure that most of you guys have seen this press conference, but there was a couple of things during this press conference. And one of them was surprising to me, that we heard the sheriff, Sheriff Jeff Gayler, he called out 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Did anybody catch on to that? Did that slip over anyone's head? I don't think so. I think we have a bunch of true crime enthusiasts that catch on to these things. But he called out 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. And I want to take a listen to that again and watch it with you guys. But he called upon politicians to look at this reform and to address the open border situation that they have going on, because too many of U.S. citizens, too many of our citizens in the United States are becoming murder victims of some of the illegals that are crossing into and flooding into our great country, United States. And something has to give here. So by a show of hands in the chat, who understands what the reference was by the sheriff at the press conference? So I'm going to take a look at this from a different angle. This is a totally different angle because it shows everybody at the podium. And I kind of like this angle because the one that I initially watched didn't have this. So let me cue this up. Let's take a listen. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section. Let me know what your thoughts are. We have a problem here in the United States. We have a problem with illegals coming across the border and not coming across to make a better life for themselves and not doing it the legal way and the right way. They're coming in here and they're murdering our innocent citizens. It's not a good look. It's not a good look, ladies and gentlemen. So let me put this full screen and pop it on, and then we'll have a listen to this.
Special Agent in Charge, FBI, Baltimore Field Office. Evan Campanella, Assistant Special Agent in Charge, HSI, Baltimore Field Office. Allison Healy, Harford County State's Attorney. Also in attendance are Colonel William Davis, Chief Deputy, Harford County Sheriff's Office. Sergeant Christopher Maddox, Criminal Investigations Division, Harford County Sheriff's Office. David Hughes, Deputy Chief, Bel Air Police Department.
Now, I want to highlight this comment because this comment here by Purple says, yes, but it's not relevant. Bad people exist all around us. Guess what, Purple? If your family was being murdered by a savage like this guy, if your family, one of your family members or yourself or somebody close to you was murdered by Victor Martinez Hernandez, 23 years old, I don't think you'd be making that comment. And that comment to me is, that's a slap in the face to Rachel Morin's family and to all victims who become murdered victims of these heinous criminals he has drug ties to his country in El Salvador. This is a savage who shouldn't be here in this country. And the reason he's here is because of the current political climate that's allowing this to happen. So shame on you.
Department, John Cook, Chief of Staff, Washington, Baltimore, HIDA. Patrick Vincenti, President of the Harford County Council, and members of Rachel's family. After Ms. Healy concludes her remarks, Patty Morin, Rachel's mom, will offer a few remarks as well. She will not be taking questions today. We know that you have many questions for all of us. Please keep in mind that we will try to answer as many as we can, but this investigation is still ongoing, and there are some details we cannot discuss at this time. Again, thank you for joining us, taking your time and dedication to telling Rachel's story. And with that, Sheriff
Sorry,
Gayler.
guys. I got caught up in
Thanks,
a moment.
Christy. Good afternoon, everybody. As Christy said, I'm Harford County Sheriff Jeff Gayler. As everyone's aware, on August 6, 2023, our peaceful Harford County community was rocked when the body of Rachel Morin was discovered in an area just about a mile from here, just off the Ma and Pa hiking trail here just outside the town of Bel Air. In addition to the impact to our local Harford County community, Rachel's murder gained national and even international attention. The young mother of 5, whose life was violently taken in a public location, is one of the safest places in the state. It's not supposed to happen, and it shouldn't have happened. In the days and months since Rachel was murdered, Rachel's family and friends, our Harford County community, and the men and women of the Harford County Sheriff's Office, along with all of our allied partners, have worked tirelessly to bring the individual responsible for her death to justice. Our deputies and our partners have worked this case with persistence and passion for Rachel and for her family every day over the past 10 months. Just over 3 weeks ago, on May 20th, on what should have been Rachel's 38th birthday, and in a poetic coincidence, or perhaps in Rachel's own divine assistance, our investigators uncovered a lead that led us to this day to walk free again. The lead we received was related to DNA evidence and allowed investigators to finally put a name to the image of the suspect in the video from Los Angeles, which we released 2 weeks after Rachel's death. After we had the video, we knew what he looked like. We knew what he looked like, but we didn't know who he was. With the new DNA evidence, now we know who he is, but we still didn't know where he was. As I have stated many times, this killer could have been laying his head in any community in the country or even in the world, and indeed, that was completely accurate. Over the past 2 weeks, investigators continued their diligent investigation and tracked our suspect all the way from Prince George's County to Tulsa, Oklahoma. Our investigators also obtained an arrest warrant yesterday afternoon, and as the arrest warrant was being issued, we met with Rachel's family, many of whom are with us today, to update them on the case and asked of them an almost impossible request. And that was to keep the information about the identity and the arrest warrant to themselves and protected, to allow investigators the opportunity to try to apprehend this suspect before it was made public in the news, so that our suspect did not have the opportunity to learn that he was wanted and to once again flee. 5 hours after meeting with the family and just before midnight our time, police in Tulsa, Oklahoma, assisted by our federal partners, located and arrested Rachel's murderer, Victor Antonio Martinez Hernandez. So far, we have learned that the suspect, now pictured on the screens, is a 23-year-old citizen of El Salvador who illegally crossed the border into the United States in February of 2023. We all suspected that perhaps Rachel was not his first victim. And it's my understanding that this suspect, this monster, fled to the United States illegally after committing the brutal murder of a young woman in El Salvador a month early in January of 2023. Once in our country, and likely emboldened by his anonymity, he brutally attacked a 9-year-old girl and her mother during a home invasion in March of 2023 in Los Angeles. And as everyone I believe is aware, that was our first DNA match linking Rachel's case to the Los Angeles case. It has been—
So that reference right there is that they had the DNA of a suspect, but he was not in CODIS because he was never arrested officially in the United States. So that was a big thing, that they had unknown male DNA and they couldn't match it up to him. And this is how and why they utilized, through their investigation, investigative genetic genealogy. And they're going to go on to talk about it. But here comes the knockout. I can now hear in my ear the volume. Here comes the knockout, and one of the feds who were standing right behind him kind of makes a face. A couple of people up there at the standing behind him, they react to what he says, and I don't think that they knew he was going to say that, but watch the reactions now as he calls out 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Been a fear of mine that once we identified this suspect, the result would be exactly this. And I want to now direct these comments to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and to every member in both chambers of Congress. We are 1,800 miles away here in Harford County. We are 1,800 miles away from the southern border, and the American citizens are not safe because of failed immigration policies. This is the second time in just 2 years that an innocent Harford County woman has lost her life to a criminal in our country illegally.
You see the sheriff in the background too, here shaking his head and agreeing with him. But I have a different angle. The guy that's over here also makes a face when he says it. Obviously, the face that he made was that he agreed with him.
These comments to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and to every member in both chambers of Congress. We are 1,800 miles away here in Harford County. We are 1,800 miles away from the southern border, and the American citizens are not safe because of failed immigration policies.
We are not safe. And this guy, this sheriff here, Jeff Gayler, is a rock star. because he's calling balls and strikes. He's calling out the bullshit that we as American citizens are being force-fed by this open border policy and having all of these sanctuary cities from California to New York City to all over the effing place. And guess who pays the price for it? We do. Innocent, hardworking, law-abiding citizens are being murdered. And I could say that with extreme conviction because I still have friends who are on the job that are responding to stabbings, shootings, rapes, robberies, property theft. Every kind of crime is being committed. And it's happening all too often. And this sheriff, because he's got a brass pair of balls, stepped up to the podium and said, "This is to you at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, Mr. President, and all the lawmakers and folks in Congress, get your heads out of your ass and make our country safe again."
Angeles, and as everyone I believe is aware, that was our first DNA match linking Rachel's case to the Los Angeles case. It has been a fear of mine that once we identified this suspect, the result would be exactly this. And I want to now direct these comments to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and to every member in both chambers of Congress. We are 1,800 miles away here in Harford County. We are 1,800 miles away from the southern border, and the American citizens are not safe because of failed immigration policies. This is the second time in just 2 years that an innocent Harford County woman has lost her life to a criminal in our country illegally. Let me repeat that. 1,800 miles from the southern border, and this is the second woman in our county to be killed by an illegal alien. Suspects, in both cases, they are suspects from El Salvador with ties to criminal gangs. Should not be happening. Victor Hernandez did not come here to make a better life for himself or for his family.
That's for sure.
He came here to escape the crime he committed in El Salvador. He came here and murdered Rachel, and God willing, no one else. But that should have never been allowed to happen. Moving on, I want to make it clear that this case does not get solved.
Okay, here's another ridiculous comment. This has nothing to do with Democrats or Republicans, but of course, Linda has to go there. This comment gets the stupid comment of the live stream. Congratulations, Linda, on the most ridiculous comment. This is about death and destruction and murder by illegal immigrants coming into this country and committing crimes. And I'm not saying they're all committing crimes, but guess what? Some of them are, and they're not here legally. So get your head out of your ass and stop with this lie, this bullshit going, it's about Republicans. No, it's about our lawmakers. It's about who's in charge now. Who is our commander in chief? And who the hell is not doing anything about it? So you win the most stupid, idiotic comment of the live stream. Thank you.
And we do not bring this criminal to justice without the amazing law enforcement teamwork from our local, state, and federal partners. And I mean that in all sincerity. Rachel's homicide does not get solved. There is no arrest without all of us working together. And for that, I want to thank everyone here in the front of the room and all those who aren't here, but I'm going to cover a list in a minute.
You know how much harder our police and our, on local, state, and federal levels have to work when you have the floodgates open to criminals from not just El Salvador, but criminals from all countries are pouring into our country. The numbers don't lie. I watched busloads of illegal immigrants coming into New York City from Texas because the governor in Texas was like, "Oh, you guys are sanctuary cities. Here, New York, here, take my problems that or people that are pouring into the great state of Texas. Here, I'll bus them to California. Oh, I'll bus them up to Chicago. I'll bus them all over the place. And guess where they go? Into your communities. And guess where they look to commit crimes? Wherever the hell they can. So until people open their eyes up and get their heads out of their asses, this is going to be going on. And guess what? You, me, and every one of us are in danger. So it's like cocaine, the big lie. It's open borders, the big lie. Here, come on, tax-paying legal citizens that are law-abiding. Let's welcome these people with open arms. Let's handshake them. Let's give them handshakes and give them $2,000 credit cards and give them free hotels and give them all free food when we have our own homeless vets and our own people starving in this country. Not right. Not right.
I want to thank all of them for their assistance to our agency over the past 10 months. We are profoundly grateful for your dedication and support. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, especially the Baltimore Field Office, rendered invaluable assistance throughout the course of the investigation. Similarly, the State Police, Maryland State Police Crime Laboratory contributed greatly with their expertise and resources. I must also say thank you to the Los Angeles Police Department, the Department of Homeland Security, Naval Criminal Investigative Services, the Maryland State Police Bel Air Barrack, the U.S. Marshal Service Fugitive Task Force, the Harford County State's Attorney's Office, the Maryland Department of Natural Resources Police, the Bel Air Police Department, Maryland Coordination and Analysis Center, the Baltimore Washington HIDA, the Tulsa, Oklahoma Police Department, El Salvadorian authorities, and the many law enforcement agencies, both state and local, who provided invaluable assistance to the Harford County Sheriff's Office during this investigation. As I think is evident, this was truly a comprehensive law enforcement effort, and I am exceptionally proud of the work done by the collective team and countless others who made last night's arrest in Tulsa possible. I also want to thank the members of our Harford County community for their patience, support, and cooperation throughout this investigation, to include hundreds upon hundreds of tips that our investigators have received. Today, we were able to provide what some like to refer to as closure to Rachel's family and for our Harford County community. I want to thank the members of the Morin family, and you're going to hear from, as Christy said, from Patricia here in a minute, but no questions. They have been by the side of our detectives this entire time, doing anything that they could do to help the investigation and to help our detectives, to help bring this individual that took Rachel's life to justice. I recognize there is nothing that will ever close the door or bring true closure concerning the loss of Rachel, but it is my hope and the hope of all involved working this case that the arrest of this suspect brings her family and our Harford County community some peace. I would like to now ask FBI Baltimore Field Office Special Agent in Charge, William Debano, did I get it right? Debano, to offer a few remarks.
I just want to stop it because this FBI agent is going to come on and talk about their involvement in this investigation. This gets me angry because Rachel Morin was a mother of 5, 37 years old. She would have been 38. And on her 38th birthday, someone developing and breaking investigatory leads broke in what the sheriff said as some type of divine intervention of maybe from, coming from the heavens above. But this angers me because this is an innocent mother of 5 who went jogging on a trail where there's basically no crime. The crime level is so low there, the Maupaw Heritage Trail. And she was minding her own business and was savagely raped and murdered by this illegal immigrant. Came to this country to commit crimes. You bet your ass I'm fired up. This is about justice for not just only Rachel Morin, but for all of the victims that fall to crimes committed by these illegals. And And we can't discount that crime here within our country from folks who are citizens here happens. But why do we have to up the ante and make it so much more dangerous for innocent people? You want to be able to go out and put a pair of earbuds in or one earbud in and go jogging on a trail? You should be able to do that. It's just sickening. And that's why I'm really hopped up here. I'm really hopped up because some innocent mother, could be any one of our children, could be, God forbid, my wife, your family, anyone's, this could happen to. So yeah, I'm mad and I'm hopped up. You don't really see me on fire like this. But this case, I mean, I was out and about today. It's Father's Day weekend. I was having a great time. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb. And when I got home at 8 o'clock tonight, my time, I saw this and I was like, thank God they got justice for her. But when I started listening to the press conference, I got really fucking pissed off, man. I got really fucking pissed. So you can get mad at me. I mean, I know I'll lose some subscribers on this, but I want to be able to tell you how I feel about these cases when it really gets to me. And this one really got to me, man. I'm mad as hell. Not just for Rachel and her family, because we're going to hear from her mother. I'm mad as hell for all of us. I'm mad as hell for all of us. Not everybody has the ability to walk around and protect themselves. There's a lot of vulnerable people out there. We should be able to walk and go about our daily business in peace. Not have to worry about some savage coming out of the woods and raping you and killing you. Think about it. Think about it, ladies and gentlemen. That we got to do better. We can't count on law enforcement to be our own personal security guards. And if we open up our borders and let people flood into our country that are undocumented and we don't know who the fuck they are and what they've done or what kind of past they have, what do you think's going to happen? I mean, come on. I hate to rant, but I don't do this often. But I'm fucking pissed.
Thank you, Sheriff Gayler. Good afternoon. My name is Bill Del Bagno. I'm the special agent in charge of the FBI Baltimore Field Office. Today, our focus remains on Rachel, bringing justice for her, finding answers for her family and loved ones, and making sure the violent criminal who so viciously took her life cannot harm anyone else. The FBI is proud to stand united with our partners in the Harford County Sheriff's Office as we announce this arrest. We know nothing can take away the pain and the anguish Rachel's family and friends have endured. Please know, on behalf of the FBI, our hearts are with you. To the public, keeping our community safe is one of the FBI's highest priorities, and so are the invaluable partnerships required to accomplish this. During the investigation, here's what I can share from the FBI. Our investigative genetic genealogy team in Baltimore worked countless hours to identify the suspect by using crime scene DNA and tracing that DNA to potential family members. Investigators even traveled to El Salvador as part of their efforts to identify this killer.
You're hearing this is the FBI special agent in charge. They used investigative genetic genealogy and they traveled to El Salvador. You know how many resources were used to work this case? You know how much money it cost to track down this murderer who shouldn't have been here in the first place? You know how much resources by the feds, by the state, by the locals traveling to El Salvador? A lot of money was put into this investigation for somebody who shouldn't have been here. If we were running our country the right way, this scumbag wouldn't have been in here, shouldn't have been in here. but he was. And hundreds of thousands of others. Hundreds of thousands of others.
To find the suspect, the FBI is proud to stand united with our partners in the Harford County Sheriff's Office as we announce this arrest. We know nothing can take away the pain and the anguish Rachel's family and friends have endured. Please know, on behalf of the FBI, our hearts are with you. To the public, keeping our community safe is one of the FBI's highest priorities, and so are the invaluable partnerships required to accomplish this. During the investigation, here's what I can share from the FBI. Our investigative genetic genealogy team in Baltimore worked countless hours to identify the suspect by using crime scene DNA and tracing that DNA to potential family members. Investigators even traveled to El Salvador as part of their efforts to identify this killer. To find the suspect, we've provided technical assistance, helping to pinpoint his location. And that brings us to last night, where Tulsa police and FBI agents were able to successfully apprehend and arrest the suspect in Oklahoma. Hartford County and the investigators on this case worked every angle, tirelessly and constantly, never giving up and following every lead and piece of evidence. We thank Hartford County for their partnership and bringing us into the investigation. As Sheriff Gayler outlined, we thank everyone who helped make this arrest possible. To all those who have been waiting for an arrest to be made, for answers, we hope this brings a sense of justice and some peace. The FBI vows to continue to work every day to keep our community safe and prioritize the partnerships so vital to doing that. Thank you. I will now turn it over to Evan Campanella, the Deputy Special Agent in Charge, HSI, Baltimore.
HSI is another federal agency, and they're going to talk about HIDA. And I did so many hours of HIDA overtime. And that's money that is given to municipal police departments across our great country, New York and other, I know it's here in New York and in other cities. And what we did was, it was all done in concentrated areas of drug trafficking and drug sales and high crimes. And they flooded those areas. We flooded those areas with HIDA funds from the federal government to combat drug sales, drug distribution, places where people are getting shot and killed. And we flooded those areas for many, many years here in New York City. The NYPD, I did many tours of HIDA overtime. And it was effective, and they're going to talk about it here.
Thank you, Sec Del Bagno. First off, I would like to thank Sheriff Gayler for having HSI present for today's announcement. Today's announcement is the culmination of almost 1 year of investigative activity that might not always go noticed by the public. This investigation highlights the cooperation and the collaboration HSI has with its state and local and federal partners. And I'm happy to be here today with Sheriff Gayler and our partners to announce the arrest of Mr. Martinez Hernandez. I hope that today's announcement, as the sheriff pointed out, will help bring some closure to Rachel's family. And again, I would like to thank Sheriff Gayler for asking HSI to participate in this investigation and to be here for today's announcement. I would now like to invite Harford County State's Attorney, Allison Healy, to the podium for her remarks.
Good afternoon. I want to commend the Harford County Sheriff's Office and other assisting agencies on the hard work, expertise, and diligence identifying and apprehending the suspect in the murder of Rachel Morin. They worked tirelessly on this lengthy and difficult investigation for the public safety of our community and bringing Rachel's family peace knowing that the next step is prosecution. I will personally be leading the prosecution of this case. While the defendant is innocent until and unless he is proven guilty, Harford County and our neighboring communities can rest assured that my office will take all steps necessary to ensure that justice is served for Rachel Morin and her family. We have already begun coordinating with the Warrant Apprehension Unit of the Harford County Sheriff's Office to handle the extradition of the defendant to Harford County. And once the defendant has been transported back to Harford County, prosecution will commence. Thank you. It is my pleasure to introduce to you all Patricia Morin.
All right, so this is Rachel's mom, and it's kind of heartbreaking to hear her talk, but I'm glad that she did. Rachel Morin's mom is going to step up to the podium, and she's going to thank the police. She's going to thank the investigators. And you're going to see the pain on this woman's face because she's got 5 grandkids that have no mother. Her daughter was raped and murdered. And this extradition, this is a process, and it will take probably a day or two on starting Monday. So Monday, they'll do an extradition hearing. I did these many times. They'll do an extradition hearing. He'll waive his extradition. If he doesn't waive his extradition and tries to fight it, he'll still lose. It'll take another day, and then he'll be shipped out back over to Hartford. So this all is a process, but it has to happen when court is open. So court's not open on Sundays. So Monday morning or Tuesday, there'll be an extradition hearing, and it's quick, it's easy, and the Hartford County authorities will be there, or probably are there already, and they'll ship this scumbag back to be charged where he needs to be charged in Maryland. So let's listen to her mom, and let's keep the chat, hearts for this family. There's fathers to these children. There's a father to to the children, and there are extended family members. So let's keep the chat on point here while her mom talks. She's a brave woman because she got up there and talked very well.
I'm going to make this really short because I'm very emotional.
She looks so much like her daughter.
I just want to take this time to thank all of the law enforcement for all their hard work. I know that a lot of times we don't see what goes on behind the scenes. You see the policeman in the car when you write you a ticket, but you don't see the real work that happens behind. And around Christmas time, we did a canvassing with Harford County, thank you. And they brought us into a room, and I could see all the people that were involved. And that's not even all the external agencies that were involved. And it just gave me such hope that they really did care about our family and my daughter, that they were going to work diligently to find the person that murdered her. At one point, when things seemed like really bleak and hopeless, the lead detective said to me, he said, patience will win in the end. And that's what they've been doing. They've been diligently working very hard, and they've been patiently working through all the leads. And it's because of that we have an arrest today. So I'm very thankful and just very grateful to these men. And I'm also very grateful to the press because you kept her story alive so that people would still continue to send in tips. And that helped them to do their job. So I want to thank the press as well. But I don't know if this is, oops, sorry about that. I don't know if this is kosher or not. I'm going to step away from the pulpit. But I think we should applaud them just because I am so grateful that they have brought us to this place. Because at some of the points during this, I didn't think that we were ever going to have an end, that it was going to be a cold case. So I would like to applaud them.
The men and women who worked tirelessly on this case. I mean, when I saw this for the first time, and this is my second time viewing this, what a class act Rachel's mom is for doing that. And again, these men and women here at the podium that you're looking at have worked tirelessly. And there is so many more that aren't there, that traveled to El Salvador, that worked along with the FBI and the state police and locals in all these different jurisdictions, including over in Los Angeles. There's multiple agencies that are involved. There's probably too many of them to be up here. But what a class act for her to do that. And you guys saw and heard the emotion in her voice. 10 months have gone by. 10 months from that fateful evening on August 5th, 2023. And then her body was found on August 6th, 2023. We're now into June 15th. So there had to have been a point in time that this family was saying, well, we're never going to find this guy. Videos of him, pictures of him walking out of that house. We've all seen it 100,000 times. And then cases go by and more people getting killed, more murders, more missing persons, cases and cases and cases, and nothing was happening. But here we are today. The long arm of the law reached out and grabbed this scumbag and grabbed this heinous murderer, brought him to justice. So the men and women in law enforcement, I applaud them, because I know how difficult and how long these cases can take and how many man hours and women hours go into this. So kudos to the men and women who work for justice. We work for justice. We work for the families.
Thank you. And it's a case that touched us all. So with that, we are going to take some questions. As Christy said, this is still an active investigation. So there's some things that we're not free to speak about or won't be speaking about. So with that, does anybody have any questions that we can answer for any of the speakers?
I have a question. I want to know if you can, and I know you kind of went into it a little bit, but what actually happens with him right now? I feel like we read an ice hold. I don't know if you're familiar with that term, or if you can kind of
I'm very familiar with ICE detainers.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not sure.
Yes, we are what's the status? There has been.
Okay, so someone just asked in the chat, what happens to him with the murder that he committed in El Salvador? I don't know where that question went, but that was a good question, and I was going to address it, but the reporters asked right away. It was the first question. One of the reporters just asked him, what happens with his ICE detainer, the detainer from his home country? And he's going to answer that now. But yeah, that was whoever sent that in the chat. Kudos to you for asking a good true crime sleuthing question.
An ICE detainer filed on him because he'll be speaking about. So with that, does anybody have any questions that we can answer for any of the speakers?
I have a question. I want to know if you can, and I know you kind of went into it a little bit, but what actually happens with him right now? I feel like we read an ice hold. I don't know if you're familiar with that term, or if you can kind of
I'm very familiar with ICE detainers.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not sure.
Yes, we are
what's the status?
there has been an ICE detainer filed on him because he is in this country illegally out in Tulsa, Oklahoma. He would not be deported before answering for these charges.
There's your question is answered. He's going to be processed on all of the charges that he faces here in the United States. And when those charges are done and he's sentenced, and hopefully he gets sentenced to life in prison, because I know in Maryland, they do not have the death penalty. Life in prison without the possibility of parole. He will die in a United States prison, and rightfully so. And then they can take his body back to El Salvador and do what the hell they want with it after that.
So I honestly believe that's the last place he wants to go. I think, a sad statement is our jails are better here than they are in El Salvador, and he's going to spend, God willing, the rest of his days behind bars.
How was he able to get around from El Salvador to LA to here to County, apparently Tulsa?
Investigators are still.
How is he able to get into this? She just asked him, how is he able to get from El Salvador into the United States and then go to LA, then go to Maryland, then go to Tulsa, Oklahoma? And let's listen to his answer. So kudos to this female reporter. She's asking good questions.
A sad statement is our jails are better here than they are in El Salvador, and he's going to spend, God willing, the rest of his days behind bars.
How was he able to get around from El Salvador to LA to here to County, apparently Tulsa?
Investigators are still working. I mean, he worked a few odd jobs that we are familiar with. Did not live a very, expensive lifestyle. But this is a free country. You can, once you're in it, you can move from one jurisdiction to the next, very freely. And he did that
And that's the point. That's the point of all this. When unvetted people come into this country, when unvetted men and women from all different countries, not just El Salvador, we know this is happening from people are coming in here from Nigeria. They're coming in here from all over the place, including terrorists. There's terrorists walking free amongst our citizens here in the United States. I'm not like a conspiracy theorist, but the bottom line is, the fact is, there are unvetted. These people, we don't know anything about them. Come on in. Here's a $2,000 credit card. I'm going to give you free hotel and free health care and free food. Whatever you need, we got you. And then they come in, and some of them, not all, some of them murder us. Some of them rob us. Some of them take property crime, do property crimes. And some, like this scumbag, rapes you and murders you. How about that? There's the prize right there.
From El Salvador into the United States to Los Angeles. Still working. I mean, he worked a few odd jobs that we are familiar with. Did not live a very,
It's already,
expensive
it's already
lifestyle.
wild, double agent.
But
Already
this is
wild.
a free country. You can, once you're in it, you can move from one jurisdiction to the next, very freely. And he did that from El Salvador into the United States to Los Angeles, unfortunately here to Harford County, and again down in Prince George's County. We had him in the Virginia area, and then all the way out to Tulsa, Oklahoma. And in the year he's been in the country, a little year plus, who knows where else.
Yeah, Mary Beth Ricciello. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing. I suck at names. She says, what about the cop in New York City that was injured by an illegal on a scooter? He was shot. He wasn't injured. he was shot. We had a New York City cop just a week ago shot by an illegal, riding an illegal scooter in, I believe, Queens County in New York, in New York City. And he shot a New York City police officer. Luckily, he survived. But this is the kind of people that we got running around. When you don't vet somebody and you do no background checks and you don't know what their criminal past is or what they've been up to, then this is what happens. This is despicable. Rachel Morin is part of the statistics now. She's part of the statistics, and 5 kids don't have a mother anymore.
Where else she's been. and it's a fear of mine. El Salvador into the United States to Los Angeles, unfortunately here to Harford County, and again down in Prince George's County. We had him in the Virginia area, and then all the way out to Tulsa, Oklahoma. And in the year he's been in the country, a little year plus, who knows where else he's been. And it's a fear of mine. It's a fear of our investigators. And as Patty said, our investigators took this case to heart, as they do all the cases. But this case they took to heart, and they worked so hard and have an emotional tie to it that I got off on a tangent. That they, I lost my train of thought. Investigators are working that. We certainly know he has connections down in the D.C. area, both Virginia and Prince George's County. But again, as he moved around the country, there were places that we believe he probably had associates, and he has ties to known gangs. So we believe that's how he lived his life.
Carly, there's tens of thousands of illegals that are poured into our country, and you lose track of them. And they do keep statistics. The FBI and, local, state, and federal, there's all kinds of statistics. But when you have them in here, how do you rile them up and now try to vet them? It's impossible. We're going to, for decades, suffer from this. And who's going to suffer, Carly? And I appreciate your question right there, and I appreciate you being here always. There's no answer to this because the damage is done. These people are now circulated amongst all of us in all of our communities. Every one of the communities across the United States can be affected. You just heard the sheriff say, you can move freely about the country. You can go from state to state, location to location. And this scumbag at 23 years old was able to go from LA to Maryland, down to Virginia, and God only knows where else. But he wound up where he was collared at a sports bar, sitting in Tulsa, Oklahoma, in a freaking sports bar, drinking. And all of those people in there, were, unbeknownst to them, were around an illegal that murdered in his country in El Salvador, and that murdered here and raped and home invaded and committed God only knows how many more crimes. It's despicable. How many total crimes and victims?
That's where I was going before. We fear all the time, the investigators fear that we're going to stumble across another crime that just hasn't been tied back through DNA or some other science or electronic, tie, that the evidence just hasn't reached the point where we get a hit.
She asked him, how many more crimes has he committed? And he's basically saying, I don't know. Their fear is that there could be many, many more.
But right now, what we're familiar with is the crime in Los Angeles, the home invasion in March of 2023, the homicide here of Rachel in August of 2023. And I believe in Tulsa, he's facing some local charges as well for last night. I think trespassing or disorderly or something to that effect. We're not familiar with any other. I'm not familiar with any other charges. Oh, in El Salvador, there is a what's called a red notice. A red notice, which is basically an Interpol warrant for his arrest to bring him back there to stand for the homicide of the woman in that case down there.
And can you speak to the collaboration with the El Salvadorian authorities? How did you all deal with that?
Well, and I gotta defer to our partner.
The reporter asked him, how does it work with the collaboration between the United States and El Salvadorian authorities? So he's deferring to someone else here.
Partners at the FBI on that one because they did most of the international.
Thanks, sir. So the FBI has personnel that are positioned throughout the world. They're called legal attaches. We have a legal attache that is in El Salvador.
Embedded.
As we were conducting some of the investigative actions along with Harford County, some of the investigative information took us to El Salvador and working with our partners there in order to understand some of the familial ties that are down there, and also bring together back a better understanding of the red notice that Sheriff Gayler brought up as well. I don't have any information on it.
I didn't hear what she just asked him, but that was a very good answer and very, very descriptive. He went into pretty much a lot of details. So we have embedded not only, the NYPD has embedded detectives in Israel and all over the world in so many different countries. But the FBI has what they refer to as attachés that are embedded all over the world. They live there and they operate within those countries, and they do lots of counter surveillance and, have local authorities cooperation where they share information. And thank God we have that, because without that, we'd be fucked. So it's a great thing. That was a great question. And I want to hear him talk about it again, because I think it's important for us to know that we have that partnership, and it's been in existence for a long time.
So the FBI has personnel that are positioned throughout the world. They're called legal attachés. We have a legal attaché that is in El Salvador. As we were conducting some of the investigative actions along with Hartford County, some of the investigative information took us to El Salvador, and working with our partners there in order to understand some of the familial ties that are down there, and also bring together back a better understanding of the red notice that Sheriff Gayler brought up as well. I don't have any information on it.
Can you go to detail how he was arrested in Tulsa? Is it a traffic stop? Is it something happened? As I understand it, there was about, I don't know how many hours they're behind, 2, 3, Tulsa. So it was midnight our time, and he was hanging out at a business park or a storefront, and the police encountered him, and apparently there's a charge of, did we say it's trespassing? Trespassing. And he was identified during that arrest and processing.
Now, here's the thing: people might say, "How is he charged with trespassing? And where does that come about? He's in a sports bar." This is what, and I could be completely wrong about this, but this is what I would envision as a former law enforcement. He was in that establishment, and he may have been acting unruly or not acting right, and the bartender or bouncer or somebody in there said, "You got to get out," and he refused to get out, or there was a language barrier maybe, and they called up and said, "Listen," called the police and said, "Listen, he's not welcome here." That's a possibility. I'm not saying that's exactly what happened, but that could be what this encounter led to his arrest, because he was acting not correct. So if anybody has any other information, I'd love to hear it, but they didn't really give it. They didn't really give it up, other than to say that he was trespassing.
Well, that's been a question since the outset. Can you go to detail how he was arrested in Tulsa?
Can you detail how he was arrested in Tulsa?
As I understand it, there was about, I don't know how many hours they're behind,
Midnight.
2, 3, Tulsa. So it was midnight our time, and he was hanging out at a business park or a storefront, and the police encountered him, and apparently there's a charge of, did we say it's trespassing? Trespassing, and he was identified during that arrest and processing.
And that's a low-level misdemeanor. A lot of times trespassing is a summonsable offense, so you can get a desk appearance ticket for trespassing. So a very small, low-level crime leads the police in Tulsa, Oklahoma to encounter him. And then through the investigation, through him giving a fake name, and then they do fingerprints and all of the processing, they figure out we got this guy. So kudos to the cops who had the initial engagement with him. So it's pretty good police work right there.
Any idea of a motive here, or we feel this is just completely random case?
Well, that's been a question since the outset. Was Rachel's homicide random or targeted? And again, I don't know that we have that answer explicitly or completely. But at this point, there's nothing to indicate that anyone other than him was involved. We do have some belief that he spent some time here in the Bel Air area, so he may have seen her and her.
Remember, we heard early on in this investigation that he stalked her online or was looking at her online social media profiles, and went from California straight clear across the United States to Bel Air, Maryland. So we may find out more as this investigation unfolds and as the court process starts. And I wouldn't be surprised if this wasn't a targeted attack, like he didn't just randomly come upon her. There was a few people that had eyewitnesses that saw him in that park, I think the day before, and they came forward. So he may have been stalking out her location, scoping out the places where she runs, because she was posting that on social media. And I'm putting myself back on for a second. That's another thing and it's a whole nother ball game here, is we have to really be careful about what you post on social media. And this goes out to young, old, and everything in between. Because I have some grandmothers that post on social media. I'm at my granddaughter's soccer game over at such and such park. I see it on Facebook all the time with a picture of their granddaughter or grandson kicking a ball around. Well, if somebody wants to come and hurt you or do something bad, you just told them where the hell you are. So don't do it. Things that make you go, Social media can be sometimes our best friend and our worst enemy. So do not post where you're going on vacation, what you're doing. You're going out for a jog. You're going to the park to play pickleball. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Because you got people like that out there.
More or less about, I don't know how many hours they're behind, 2, 3, Tulsa. So it was midnight our time, and he was hanging out at a business park or a storefront, and the police encountered him, and apparently there's a charge of, did we say it's trespassing, and he was identified during that arrest and processing.
Any idea of a motive here, or we feel this is just completely random?
What's the motive?
Well, that's been a question since the outset. Was Rachel's homicide random or targeted? And again, I don't know that we have that answer explicitly or completely. But at this point, there's nothing to indicate that anyone other than him was involved. We do have some belief that he spent some time here in the Bel Air area, so he may have seen her and her more or less routine operations. One of the things that we caution people, particularly women on the trail, about doing was developing a routine where it can be predicted where you might be. That would be my suspicion. If he decides to talk throughout the course of the days ahead to either investigators or prosecutors as it moves to that stage, we may learn more about, was it just an opportunity because he was on the trail when, unfortunately she decided to go out exercising that day, or was it something more specific? As to the motive, we've been tight-lipped, I guess, about it. The charges in the case are first-degree murder and first-degree rape. Yeah, and as the colonel just reminded me to say, we do have right now in the air. We have sent investigators to Tulsa, Oklahoma, to follow up on many things related to this investigation. It's very active and ongoing, as I said. He will be extradited here eventually, and
It takes time.
that will be done. That process has already been initiated, but it could take, as I understand, the state's attorney, 10 to 30 days. 10 days if he doesn't fight it, 30 days if he decides to fight.
It could be he could be extradited in a few days. But those are the guidelines. 10 days is a reason. Here's what they say. It's a reasonable amount of time. Local authorities will hold someone on little misdemeanor charges that he's held on there for that trespass for up to 10 days. If he fights the extradition, it could be up to 30 days. But all the time he's in custody in Oklahoma, if he fights extradition, will not count as time served. It's not counted as time served. So a defense attorney will advise him, just waive the extradition. I anticipate that extradition will happen quicker than 10 days. So let's hold me to that. I would imagine that we'll see him, if all goes well, by Friday, this Friday coming, he'll be back in Hartford. And I'm hoping that's the case.
Fight it, but he will be extradited. 30 to 60.
Genetic genealogy, she's asking.
I'm not really sure if we really hear that so often with cases, like hacking cases, especially once
Thank you, Muddy Paws. She's asking about investigative genetic genealogy.
Absolutely. So I think a lot of folks know genetic genealogy or investigative genetic genealogy in some of the cold cases, and certainly has gotten a lot of attention from the Golden State Killer, and since then a lot of investigations on the cold case side. I think folks should also know that we prioritize the violent crime cases that are current, and that this is an game-changing investigative tool to understand when there are dry holes and there's no other leads to go, that we can apply the investigative genealogy to identify potentially family members, and then in doing that, take it on to a step where Hartford County and our partners can conduct interviews to better understand who the potential subjects are and narrow down that scope. We also use it on, unfortunately, the victim side, when we can't identify a victim through any other means, and building out the cases that way. We've seen over time 130 cases thus far since 2018 that have had successfully used investigative genetic genealogy.
There's no traffic. There's no traffic. Well, he was encountered by the police and agents for the FBI who were out there looking for him. So they had an idea of where he was. But I know that from that encounter, there's also a local charge of trespassing, not in a vehicle. He was apparently at that business, I guess, unwantedly so. He was. We already had the name. We had the arrest warrant. So when they encountered him, they knew he was wanted. So he was picked up for that.
So that's the thing. I believe a day before this arrest, I think a day or so before this arrest, they told the Morin family, they told Rachel Morin's family, hey, we got this. We know the guy. We've identified the guy. You just got to keep it quiet. They knew who he was through the investigative genetic genealogy. And thank you, Muddy Paws, for the super chat. So they knew who it was. They knew and had him identified, Victor Martinez Hernandez, but they just didn't know where the F he was. So, the police were just scurrying to try to locate him. So they had FBI on the ground. They had local, state, federal. Everybody was looking for this guy. They just didn't know where the hell he was.
Bad boys, bad boys.
Also, a local charge of trespassing, not in a vehicle. He was apparently at that business. Well, he was encountered by the police and agents for the FBI who were out there looking for him. So they had an idea of where he was. But I know that from that encounter, there's also a local charge of trespassing, not in a vehicle. He was apparently at that business, I guess, unwantedly so. He was. We already had the name. We had the arrest warrant. So when they encountered him, they knew he was wanted. So he was picked up for that. Yeah.
With the home invasion in California, will he be taken and charged there? Does this take precedent? How does?
Oh, certainly, this is the more serious, the loss of life. California will follow up on their investigation. They would have to direct questions to that police. It's LAPD that is handling that as far as specifics to their investigation. But certainly, we have been in communication. Our investigators have been in communication with theirs. They are aware that we identified the suspect here, and by identifying our suspect, we have their suspect, they have their suspect, and they can move forward on charges. They would also file an arrest warrant on file. So, I never want him to leave Maryland again. I want him to die in the Maryland jail, Maryland prison system.
Amen. I just want to show you from Tulsa, the Tulsa Police Department on Facebook. I have it pinned, but I'm going to just show you guys quick. I'm not sure if that's going to come through right. But that's a picture of him outside of the sports bar when they locked him up. That's exactly the picture of Victor Antonio Martinez Hernandez. So that's him in handcuffs by the local police. And you can see it says sports bar right there. So that's the savage. That's the monster who is, at what we know of right now, responsible for 2 murders, one in El Salvador in his home country, and one that we know of here, rape and murder, and then the home invasion where he entered that home of a 9-year-old in Los Angeles. So that's him. So kudos to the Tulsa Police Department. And correct me if I'm wrong, but our good friend Sticks, Sean Larkin, I think was a sergeant in the Tulsa Police Department. I'm going to actually reach out to him tomorrow, Sticks, and talk to him. Good old bad boys. So I think that's about it, friends. And again, I want to just say this. Listen, those of you who know me, I usually don't get this fired up, but and to all the political comments in the chat, I don't even go there, because yes, lawmakers make our laws, and it's politicians that make the laws and that they agree to these laws and so forth. But it's politicians from both sides of the aisle that are effing up and that are costing honest, innocent, law-abiding citizens their lives, because they have protection of their own. Their families and themselves are not affected by this. We are. Citizens are. So again, the chat is a little toxic tonight, but this victim, Rachel Morin, mother of 5, 37 years young, Bel Air, Maryland, life snuffed out way too soon. Nobody deserves this. Nobody deserves to be raped and murdered. She was raped and murdered by an illegal that was able to come into this country unvetted and unchallenged. And that's what gets me mad. That's what gets my blood boiling. Because this shit could be avoided. So again, I know I pissed off a lot of people probably tonight, but I cannot hold back the truth. And the truth is that we're all in danger because of these broken policies, these broken laws that need to be fixed. The floodgates were open for long enough where the damage is done. But let's shore it up. Let's make some changes. It ain't working. That's for sure.
We don't have the death penalty. So I just hope he spends the rest of his days there.
So they don't have the death penalty in the state of Maryland.
California will follow unwantedly so. We already had the name. We had the arrest warrant. So when they encountered him, they knew he was wanted. So he was picked up for that.
With the home invasion in California, will he be taken in charge there? Does this
Will be
take
taken.
precedent?
Will he be taken to?
Oh, certainly, this is the more serious, the loss of life. California will follow up on their investigation. They would have to direct questions to that police. It's LAPD that is handling that. As far
The charges in Maryland, murder and rape, will supersede that home invasion. He'll be tried and sentenced on these priority crimes, and then Los Angeles will be able to maybe add on, and maybe they'll try to bring him. I don't know exactly what the charges are, but right now it's going to be here in Maryland.
as specifics to their investigation, but certainly we have been in communication. Our investigators have been in communication with theirs. They are aware that we identified the suspect here, and by identifying our suspect, we have their suspect, they have their suspect, and they can move forward on charges. They would also file an arrest warrant on file. So, I never want him to leave Maryland again. I want him to die in a Maryland jail, Maryland prison system. We don't have the death penalty. So I just hope he spends the rest of his days there. But if he ever got out of this one, he would be extradited to California. And if he got out of that one, there's still the red folder, the red notice where El Salvador will want him back, and ICE has marked him for detainer. So
El Salvador can get him back in a body bag. They can have him back when he dies. Like I said in the beginning of this live stream, and this sheriff says it well. Let him die in a prison, in a state prison in the state of Maryland where he committed that heinous crime. And let that be a message to any and all that are out there that want to commit these types of crimes. I only wish that Rachel Morin lived in the state of Florida, because he'd be looking at the death penalty. So when you commit the crime of murder, and then you have a additional charge, that would be the rape, that constitutes the death penalty. So he'd be seeing Mr. Sparky down in Florida, or even in Texas as well. So
he would go back there to face those charges. I do not know. No. Actually, the major in the back is shaking his head. No, he does not. And again, we shared the picture. You all will have the picture. It's going to be, no doubt, out there on social media. So we're still looking for information. He was in this area for at least some period of time. And when I say the area, he was in the Bel Air area for some period of time before or right after the homicide, or both. So if people still have information, and now that there's a name to put with the face, investigators still want to talk to you. We still want to know. We still want to build that timeline, because there's a case to prosecute. And we want to put all the pieces together so that Miss Healy can do her job most successfully, and again, ensure this guy never sees the light of day.
amen to that, Sheriff.
Not that we're familiar with. Okay. Thank you all.
So that was a great press conference, and I want to just again apologize. Today I was out. It's Father's Day weekend here, and happy Father's Day in advance to all the great fathers out there. Tomorrow is Father's Day here in America, so kudos to all the good fathers out there, and kudos to the moms who step up for the shitty fathers that are not doing the right thing. So there's lots of moms who step up and take the father role as well, and there's a lot of fathers who step up for the shitty moms. So I always say this on both Mother's Day and Father's Day. So thank you all for being here. Justice for Rachel has been, the wheels of justice are in motion as we speak. And I think I can't help to think about the children and her mom and the dad and or dads. I'm not sure the whole dynamic of the family, but I think about the extended family, and I always say this to you guys, the victims and their families. That's what it's about. And through the news wire, I heard of a shooting in Michigan at like a splash pad where there was 9 people shot, and now I'm looking and reading reports that there was a child killed, 8 years old. So I want to send my strength, prayers, and positive vibes to all the victims and their families on that horrific breaking story that happened. I saw that hours ago. But again, I was out for Father's Day all day. I had my phone on Do Not Disturb, and my wife and I went to Northport, a beautiful beach water community, and we spent the day by the water watching the boats go by and just chilling out. And I just disconnected. And I was at Gabby Petito Foundation fundraiser and live stream for almost 3 hours there. It was a rough day on Friday, emotional, with victims' families, with Gabby Petito's parents. So again, prayer, strength, and positive vibes to the people who are affected in Michigan. Really, really sad. So thank you all for being here. And, as I always like to end these things, I say, God bless the world. God bless the United States of America. But most importantly, God bless Rachel Morin's family and all victims of crime across the globe. Send strength, prayers, and positive vibes to them. These folks need our support. And Rachel Morin, she didn't deserve this. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being cordial. Thank you to the moderators, the replay viewers. Happy Father's Day. Peace and love from Crime Time with DutyRon. We'll see you soon.